Hopefully, you understand the importance of color. I think a lot of people really get that color is a really important part of video production or filmmaking. It can make or break a film. But two examples came up in the past few months that really struck a chord in terms of an obvious distinction between good color and bad color. And on the good color side, I saw Mad Max Fury Road, and I loved the look. It had such a good style, both in the set design, wardrobe, and the overall production, but also in terms of the post production, the color grade on it. And on the bad side of that, unfortunately, we have the short film, I guess you would say, Forever Young, that Panasonic put out to kind of promote the GH4, but I think it did a pretty terrible job of promoting the GH4. And there were some other Panasonic products that they were kind of promoting with it. But these two films, now granted, one is a Hollywood production, the other is a short film made for the internet. So I get that there's a little bit of a discrepancy, but we'll focus purely on the color aspects of these two pieces. I think it's pretty obvious to say that one looks better than the other. And you can attribute that to cameras or lenses or whatever you want. But for me, it comes down to color. You have both of these pieces set in a desert atmosphere, environment, whatever. And you have Mad Max, which looks so strong and bold. And then Forever Young, which just looks muddy and washed out and just kind of gross to me. And there's a reason for that. When you look at Mad Max, let's talk about Mad Max, because that to me is one of the better examples of certainly stylistic color, but well done color that matches with the mood and the feel of that film. But it also just looks so breathtaking, I guess. And it comes down to this idea, or this: when you look outside, what color is the sky? If you're like me and you were in Switzerland a little bit ago, the sky was mostly white because it was covered in clouds for the time that I was there. But most days you go outside and the sky is blue. Now, when you watch a film and the sky isn't blue, that either tells you it's maybe the apocalypse or the colorist had a fun day just going nuts. And it can work for some movies. But I really appreciated that they left the sky blue in Mad Max, because it's one of those things you have this dry, arid desert landscape, and they could have done the sepia tone. What was that movie that came out? Book of Eli. Very desaturated, apocalyptic, but they didn't. They went for this bright, vibrant color, this like orange and blue, which I know is very popular because it's that kind of perfect color contrast. But anyway, they left the sky blue and they made everything else kind of orange, and it pops. It looks nice and it looks realistic. In this, relatively realistic, because the sky is staying blue and the other colors are, what you would expect, kind of this dusty orange from the sand that's all around them. Now, when you contrast that with Forever Young, same thing, desert landscapes, but they went for a much more muted tone, and I think that's to its fault. It's supposed to be like this fun, kind of quirky, I guess, short film, and it doesn't match. And the sky is not blue. It's like everything is the same color. There's no contrast. There's no separation between colors, and it just looks muddy. And I think that hurts the GH4, because I've certainly seen GH4 footage that looks a lot better than this. And I don't mean to offend, the colorist or the people who worked on this, because any production, I give them credit for getting it done. It's hard enough to make something. So just getting it done, hey, bravo. But I think when you look at this versus Mad Max, when people are talking about, I want my stuff to look cinematic or filmic or whatever. Well, it's a little bit more than just slapping a filter with, Magic Bullet looks, or just doing some kind of weird grade in After Effects or speed grade. It's about keeping the look and the feel of the scene and the environment, and then just stylizing it to make it match a specific mood or what you want it to look like. And that's very abstract. It's very subjective. But when you look at these two side by side, matching, similar scenes, similar context. Again, I get it. One's Hollywood, one's very low. One's, I don't know what the budget was, but I assume, let's say it's low budget. But a lot of that, like, it's post-production. You can, anyone who has the Adobe Suite or Final Cut or Avid or whatever can do these same things. So at a certain point, you are talking about, personal taste or preference. And my personal taste or preferences in this is, I got to give it to the Mad Max Fury Road. I just think it looks better. And that's not to say that everything needs to look like Mad Max, but I'm saying in this context, like keeping the skies blue was a good choice. I wish Forever Young had done the same thing. Kept the skies blue, made the desert a little bit more saturated, a little bit, maybe go for the orange, whatever. But instead they went for this, like, there's an old filter in one of the Magic Bullet looks, whatever suites called, like Mexicali. And so we always joke, like, oh, they put the Mexicali filter on it. Because that's what it looks like, it's like this like early 90s, mid 90s weird gradient color filter. And I just don't think it makes the footage look better. I think it makes it look worse. But hey, maybe you disagree. That's okay. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to get your thoughts. But I just thought this was such a good example of why color matters so much, because when you look at Mad Max Fury Road, like, they shot some stuff on the 5D, and it wasn't all shot on Alexa. Good portions of it were, and most of the main scenes that were, extended lengths per, clip. Yeah, Alexa, I get it. You want that dynamic range, you want that flexibility in post-production, but other stuff was shot on the 5D, and they colored it, just the same. So you can't really say that it comes down to the camera and what the camera's capturing, because you can do a lot with this footage in post-production. And on Mad Max specifically, like the post-production side of that, I've read articles on like what they did. And yeah, there were a lot of visual effects, and they were doing some additional stuff, but a lot of it too was, sky replacements, adding some clouds in, just doing some, color grading stuff. For the nighttime stuff is actually pretty interesting. You should definitely read up and check on that. There, I think FX Guide, or I forget now, they did a podcast and then an article talking about the night scenes where they shot them during the day and overexposed them actually, and then brought it all down in post-production. So that's pretty interesting. Definitely check that out. But I'll try and wrap this up. Color, it's important. Look at Mad Max, look at Forever Young, and it's not about the camera, it's not about the lenses. It comes down to the color, and that's why, in my opinion, one looks a lot better than the other.